All right, how's everybody doing? Hotep, hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian. So it is Tuesday, February 25th, 2020, and we're live. Hope everybody's doing well today. Everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. So this is a special edition of the African History Network show. I didn't get to do my show live on Sunday, February 23rd. You know, we're on normally Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. And I broadcast on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. But this past weekend, I did 3 lectures. I was speaking at 3 African-American churches for African-American History Month, 1 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. And I was worn out Sunday night, so I didn't do my show live Sunday night, okay? So, but I had a show already planned out, laid out, so here is that information. All right, so on today's show, we'll deal with, we'll continue our discussion dealing with the 6-part documentary, Who Killed Malcolm X, Who Killed Malcolm X, that's airing on Netflix. And, you know, we talked about that on last week's show, Who Killed Malcolm X. And at the time, I said I had not seen the documentary. Well, I went and watched it. And it's an interesting documentary. They have a lot of, I think they have a lot of the information in there I knew I heard over the years. There was some new information that I didn't know. But the documentary is causing some people to be skeptical about the theory that is being postulated in the documentary, or the theory that is being asked in the documentary, okay? And one of those people who questions it is author Carl Evans, who is the author of the book, The Judas Factor. This book right here, The Judas Factor, The Plot to Kill Malcolm X, okay? And he wrote a blog where he criticizes this documentary. So we'll talk some about that. Who Killed Malcolm X. And we do know that the U.S. District Attorney's Office there in the New York area is reopening the case of Malcolm X's assassination as well, because of some things that came out in this documentary. All right, so we'll deal with that. And then as the presidential campaign continues, a lot of people are seeing ads from Mike Bloomberg, okay? And, you know, Democratic presidential candidate Mike Bloomberg. And people are seeing ads of President Barack Obama in ads for Mike Bloomberg. And this is causing many people, but especially African Americans, to think that President Obama is endorsing Mike Bloomberg. All right, we'll talk about that, because President Obama has not endorsed anybody. President Obama has not endorsed anybody. And it's really, really important for people to understand this. One of the reasons why it's important for people to understand this is because last week, the information came out, we'll see, Thursday and Friday, New York Times reported February 20th, 2020, that lawmakers are warned that Russia is meddling to reelect Trump. Lawmakers are warned that Russia is meddling to reelect Trump. And we saw that a classified briefing to House intelligence members is said to have angered Donald Trump, who complained that Democrats would weaponize the disclosure. So, and then on Friday, February 21st, the news came out from the Washington Post that Bernie Sanders was briefed that Russia is meddling in the 2020 election, trying to help Bernie Sanders win the Democratic nomination. So the question that I'm asking is, if African Americans can't figure out that President Barack Obama is not endorsing Bernie Sanders. I mean, not endorsing Mike Bloomberg, okay? If we can't figure out that President Barack Obama is not endorsing Mike Bloomberg, and when you look at the campaign ads of Bloomberg, the dates from the quotes from President Obama are right in the ad, the TV ad. The dates from the quotes of President Obama are right in the TV ads. So if we can't figure out, just one second here. So if we can't figure out that that is not an endorsement, then how are we going to be able to discern messages, a Russian disinformation campaign targeting African Americans? How are we going to be able to discern that? Because that's exactly what they did in 2016, and many people still haven't figured this out. All right, so we'll discuss that. And then Roger Stone, the dirty trickster. Roger Stone, the longtime friend of Donald Trump, sometimes campaign advisor, was sentenced to 40 months in a federal prison. Good for him. Okay. Why are so many of Donald Trump's friends going to prison? You know, this is a question that we should ask. Why are so many of Donald Trump's friends going to prison? What type of people is Trump hanging around that so many of his friends are going to prison? Paul Manafort, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, his former attorney Michael Cohen, Roger Stone has been convicted and sentenced. He's on his way to prison. What do you think would happen if so many people, or even one person around President Barack Obama, went to prison? Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about Roger Stone, the dirty trickster. And then we know that the 55th anniversary of the assassination of Malcolm X just passed, right? February 21st, 1965. But February 21st, 1956 is a historic date as well. Because on February 21st, 1956, Dr. King and 115 protesters were arrested during the Montgomery Bus Boycott. Okay, this is a little piece of the Montgomery Bus Boycott. A lot of people don't know. There's a lot about the Montgomery Bus Boycott. A lot of people don't know, but this is one piece of that. Okay, so we'll talk about that and some more on this episode of the African History Network show. So everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in as well. You can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHNshow, or through Cash App, $the AHN Show, through Cash App, $the AHN Show, through Cash App. Also, okay, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and click on the yellow donate button. All right. So on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the show. We deal with current events, history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Or you can go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You sign up for the email newsletter there. All right. So, okay, I spoke at 3 churches this past weekend, so I want to thank the pastors for inviting me. I spoke, Saturday. Saturday I spoke at Hartford Memorial Baptist Church. Sister Darlene House invited me to speak. I did a presentation dealing with the film Black Panther. And then in showing how the film Black Panther relates to African history, African culture, African language, things like that. Then Sunday, I spoke at, what was our Sunday? Grace Church International in Detroit. Pastor Steen invited me to speak to his congregation for African American History Month. So I shout out to Pastor Steen and First Lady, and it was Pastor Cheeks at St. Francis Missionary Baptist Church, where I spoke a weekend before last, who put me in contact with Pastor Steen. And then Saturday evening, I spoke out at, which church was that? Christ Church out in Westland. Christ Temple Church out in Westland. Bishop McClendon and First Lady McClendon invited me to speak out there as well. Okay. All right. So if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, also email me at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, and we'll make that happen. And then lastly, I'm speaking, Friday, I'm speaking, Friday, February 27th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'm back over at the Detroit Unity Temple in Detroit. Teaching a class. I'm doing a presentation dealing with, does an amendment give you the right to vote? We'll deal with the 15th Amendment. We'll deal with African American History Month and U.S. Constitution, et cetera. That's 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's a free event, open to the public. Come on out, and we'll try to get some information on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, about that as well. All right. So I talked about, last week's show, we talked about the documentary, Who Killed Malcolm X, right? And I watched it on Netflix, and I went through pretty much and binge watched it. And it had some, I think it had some good information in there, but there was one of the claims that it was making, it's caused me to ask some questions, and Carl Evans asked the same questions as well. So just to give a little background information, there was a good article from New York Times, February 6, 2020, Who Really Killed Malcolm X is the name of this article, and it gives some background information on this documentary series, if you haven't already seen it. But we know Malcolm X was assassinated February 21st, 1965, at the Audubon Ballroom in Washington Heights, New York. And there were 3 men arrested and convicted for the assassination of Malcolm X. Now, for years, one of the men who was arrested and convicted, Talmadge Hayer, also known as Thomas Hagen, admitted guilt, but said the other 2 men who were arrested, Norman 3X Butler and Thomas 15X Johnson, he said that they were innocent, okay? And what this documentary, the theory that this documentary is pushing is that the killers came from the Newark, New Jersey mosque, okay? There were 5 remember, I think it was 5 of them. It was saying that they believed they came from the Newark, New Jersey mosque, and actually named one of the possible killers. And this person died in 2018. So I looked at, let's look a little bit here at this article from the New York Times to recap this. So some new evidence comes from a 6-part documentary called Who Killed Malcolm X. So the Manhattan District's Attorney Office is reviewing whether to reinvestigate the murder, okay, of Malcolm X, I should say. And NBCnews.com had an updated article as well from about a week later. Some of the new evidence comes from a 6-part series, Who Killed Malcolm X. It's streaming on Netflix. It started streaming February 7th. Now, instead, it points the finger at 4 members of a Nation of Islam mosque in Newark, New Jersey, depicting their involvement as an open secret in their city. One even appeared in a 2010 campaign ad for then Newark Mayor Cory Booker. And Cory Booker, there's an excerpt of Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker, in the documentary. Okay. if you haven't seen it. Now, Rachel Dretzin, Dretzin, a director of the documentary, along with Phil Bertelsen, said, what got us hooked was the notion that the likely shotgun assassin of Malcolm X was living in plain sight in Newark, New Jersey, and that many people knew of his involvement, and he was uninvestigated, unprosecuted, unquestioned. The case has long tempted scholars who see a conspiracy hidden in unreleased government documents. A detective on the case, Anthony V. Bouza, B-O-U-Z-A, wrote flatly a few years ago, quote, "The investigation was botched," end quote. Yet it has never sparked the widespread obsessive interest of the John F. Kennedy assassination or the equally brazen killing of Tupac Shakur. Attempts to reopen the case dealing with the assassination of Malcolm X, to uncover the possible roles of the FBI, New York Police Department, and the Nation of Islam, and Nation of Islam leadership have gotten nowhere, or possible Nation of Islam leadership involvement have gotten nowhere. So Talmadge Hare, a member of the Nation of Islam from a New Jersey mosque, was arrested fleeing the Audubon Ballroom with a clip from a handgun in the killing. Okay, he was a member of the Nation of Islam at the time. And later the police arrested two men from Malcolm's former Harlem mosque, Norman 3X Butler and Thomas 15X Johnson, both known as enforcers. At trial, Talmadge Hare, also known as Thomas Hagan, who later became Mujahid Abdul Halim, admitted his guilt, but said the other two men were innocent. All three men were convicted and received life sentences. Now, Thomas 15X Johnson, who became Khalil Islam, died in 2009. Norman 3X Butler, who is now Muhammad Abdul Aziz, was granted parole in 1985, and he still maintains his innocence. In the late 1970s, Mr. Halim, Mujahid Abdul Halim, who was Talmadge Hare, in the late 1970s, Mr. Halim filed affidavits naming 4 members of the Newark, New Jersey mosque as his partners in the crime. The civil rights lawyer, William Kunstler, Kunstler, William Kunstler, moved to reopen the case, but was denied. Since then, the legwork has fallen to biographers and independent researchers, including Washington, D.C. tour guide Abdur Rahman Muhammad, okay, who's the central figure in this documentary, Who Killed Malcolm X? All right, so if you've seen the documentary, you can post here, let us know what you think about it. It's on Netflix. And it's very interesting, has a lot of history in it, has some theories as well. So Abdur Rahman Muhammad said, "It bothered me that no one cared about it. It didn't get, I didn't get paid to do any of this. I've sold cars. I'm just a working class guy." So Abdur Rahman Muhammad in 2010 uncovered the identity of one of the supposed assassins named in Talmadge Hare's affidavit. His name is William Bradley, who had changed his name to Al-Mustafa Shabazz, and was married to a prominent Newark, New Jersey activist. It was Mr. Bradley's shotgun blast, researchers contend, that killed Malcolm X. So Al-Mustafa Shabazz was a well-respected, later in life, you know, he's a well-respected, and at the time of his death, a well-respected community activist there in Newark, New Jersey. He dies in 2018, and he denied any involvement in the assassination of Malcolm X, okay? Senator Cory Booker said, "I knew him well." And Senator Cory Booker says in the documentary that he knew him well, adding that he was not aware of Mr. Shabazz past identity. So Abdur Rahman Muhammad published Mr. Shabazz's name and photograph on his blog in 2010, and then shared his research with the writer and author Manning Marable, who was working on his Pulitzer Prize-winning biography, Malcolm X: A Life of Reinvention, which came under a lot of criticism when it came out. Mr. Muhammad believes that that the other three men named in Thomas Hayer's affidavits are dead. After the book came out, after the book by Manning Marable came out, Alvin Sykes, a Kansas City activist who helped persuade the FBI and Justice Department to create a cold case unit for civil rights killings, lobbied federal prosecutors to reinvestigate Malcolm X's murder. The department declined. When Mr. Shabazz died, Al-Mustafa Shabazz, when he died, the last remaining loose end was Mr. Aziz. Mr. Aziz is the former Norman 3X butler, who is now 81 years old and who served 20 years for a crime that he insists that he did not commit. So lawyers for Mr. Aziz now hope that the Manhattan District Attorney will clear his name. A spokesman for Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance said in a statement that the preliminary review, quote, will inform the office regarding what further investigative steps may be undertaken. Okay, I think at the beginning of the show, I said U.S. Attorney's Office is the District Attorney's Office there in Manhattan, not the U.S. Attorney's Office. One of the prosecutors conducting the review is Peter Casolaro, Casolaro, who played a vital role in throwing out the convictions of the 5 men wrongly imprisoned for raping a jogger in Central Park in 1989, and known as the Central Park 5, now the exonerated 5. So Mr. Aziz, who declined an interview request, has said he could not have been at the Audubon Ballroom. So this is the former Norman 3X butler, that he could not have been at the Audubon Ballroom that day because security would have blocked his entry, and that anyway, he was nearly immobile from a police beating a short while before, okay? In the documentary, he expresses little hope for the process. He says, quote, "I just don't believe in these people. I got 20 years of my life to show that I shouldn't believe in them." All right. So he declined at the time of the interview. At the time of the article from the New York Times, Muhammad Abdul Aziz, the former Norman 3X butler, declined the interview with the New York Times, but he's interviewed in the documentary series Who Killed Malcolm X. So not all people are convinced about Aziz's innocence or this theory that is being proposed in the documentary. Carl Evans, Evanzz, author of the book The Judas Factor: The Plot to Kill Malcolm X, cited film footage that he said shows Mr. Aziz at the Audubon Ballroom, Norman 3X butler, and dismissed Mr. Muhammad's research as unreliable. Okay, Abdur Rahman Muhammad, who's featured in the documentary. He dismisses Carl Evans, who's an expert on Malcolm X and Malcolm X's assassination. He dismisses Mr. Muhammad's research as unreliable. Okay. So David Shanies, Shanies, who won the Innocence Project, is representing Mr. Aziz, okay, Muhammad Abdul Aziz, and he said only that the lawyers look forward to working cooperatively with prosecutors to see that justice is done. Their case includes FBI documents that were never shared with local police or prosecutors. Barry Scheck of the Innocence Project said that based on this evidence, quote, "We are troubled that the conviction was not vacated in 1978, end quote, when Mr. Hare, Thomas Hare or Thomas Hagen, filed his affidavits. if the article goes on to say, if the district attorney stands by the conviction, the lawyers can move to argue it in state Supreme Court. But even if Mr. Aziz prevails, it will not settle questions about the larger forces that many think contributed to Malcolm X's death. The law enforcement agencies that spied on him but failed to protect him, the Nation of Islam leaders who called tacitly for his head in their rhetoric, tacitly for his head in their various rhetoric, things like this. That part of the story, along with volumes of unreleased FBI files, may never fully surface. Zach Kondo, author of Conspiracies Unraveling the Assassination of Malcolm X, Zach Kondo was interviewed in the documentary as well. And he said, when you're dealing with a complex crime and you simplify it to 5 members of the Nation of Islam walking into a ballroom, you don't give people the context they need. Okay, and I agree with that. All right, so check out this article. We'll post a link here. This is from the New York Times. It's an extensive article written by John Leland, who really killed Malcolm X. 55 years later, the case may be reopened. All right, so that article came out February 6, 2020 and updated February 27th, 2020, okay? Then February 17th, an article from moguldom.com, moguldom.com, that came out dealing with the blog that author Carl Evans, author of The Judas Factor, put out, okay? So I want to go to that. I want to give that background information because I know everybody may not know all the details of this or may not really understand it. So I want to give that background information so we can deal with the information coming from Carl Evans. Now, I first found out about Carl Evans back, I guess it's back when his book came out. I think it was, let me see when this book come out, because I saw him on Tony Brown's Journal, okay, years ago. And Tony Brown's Journal used to come on every Sunday in Detroit. I believe it was 4 p.m. every Sunday or 5 p.m., something like that. Came on PBS, came on for years, Tony Brown's Journal. And so what happened was so this came out in 1992, copyright 1992. Is that the first copyright? First, okay. So that's the year that the Malcolm X movie came out. All right. I thought it came out before 92, but okay, I'm looking at it now, 1992. So my parents would watch Tony Brown's Journal every Sunday. So I grew up watching Tony Brown's Journal. When I got older, I watched Tony Brown's Journal as well. That's where I first saw Dr. Claude Anderson, right about, I think, either 1994 or 1995. That's how I found out about Dr. Claude Anderson. I know Tony Brown interviewed Dr. Molefi Kete Asante years ago. I just saw Molefi a couple weekends ago at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History here in Detroit. But he interviewed Carl Evans dealing with the assassination of Malcolm X, and Carl Evans talked about his book. So that's how I found out about Carl Evans. But Moguldom Nation has this article entitled, let's see here, can I get past that? Moguldom.com has this article, Scholar of Nation of Islam, Carl Evans, goes off on Netflix Malcolm X documentary, calls it nonsense, okay? So let's look at what he has to say. The new Netflix documentary, Who Killed Malcolm X, has shaken up the case following its airing. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office has decided to re-examine the case. The documentary reignited beliefs that 2 of the 3 men convicted of the assassination of Malcolm X were not at the scene. The dailymail.co.uk, which is a UK publication, the Daily Mail reported, the Daily Mail reported, okay, the documentary began streaming on Netflix on February 7th. All right, now, while some were impressed by the documentary, Nation of Islam scholar and expert on the assassination of Malcolm X, Carl Evans, author of the book, The Judas Factor, The Plot to Kill Malcolm X, was not, to say the least. He recently wrote an opinion piece on the of the documentary for the Truth Continuum blog. Now, according to Carl Evans, one of the film's producers, Shayla Harris, who is African American, reached out to him for an interview and asked him to be involved in the documentary. Carl Evans declined. Carl Evans did send over reference material, which he wrote was basically ignored. Okay, so a lot of times when these documentaries are put together or come out, right? And people ask, well, why wasn't this person in this documentary? Why wasn't that person in this documentary? Okay. Sometimes those people are asked to be in the documentary, and for whatever reason, they decline. Sometimes people submit information, evidence, research to be included in documentaries. For whatever reason, the information may not make it into the documentary. The other thing that's important to understand, and I'm in 7 documentaries, so I can personally attest to this. A lot of times, when a documentary is shot, usually there's hours upon hours of other footage that did not make it into the documentary for various reasons, time constraints, whatever it is. Okay. So that also has to be kept in mind whenever you watch a documentary. I'm always concerned about, okay, what was left on the cutting room floor? What's going to end up in extras? Okay, what's going to end up in the bonus footage, etc. Right? Okay, so Shayla Harris, who is one of the film's producers and is African American, reached out to Carl Evans for an interview and asked him to be involved in the documentary. Carl Evans declined. He said he did send over reference material, which he wrote was basically ignored. Okay, basically ignored. Instead, Carl Evans said the documentary tried to claim that Norman 3X Butler was not involved in Malcolm X's murder. Carl Evans insists that he was involved in Malcolm X's murder. Quote, despite data I sent to ARC Media, ARC Media, via Shayla Harris, they chose to go with the erroneous proposition that all of the assassins were from the Newark, New Jersey mosque, and that Norman 3X Butler was framed. They conveniently show the footage of William Bradley fighting to free Thomas Hagen, but they omit the footage of Norman Butler at the same scene. Okay, so the footage they're talking about, the footage of Norman Butler at the scene, I haven't seen, but Carl Evans knows much more about this than I do. Carl Evans says he's seen the footage. He's researched the assassination of Malcolm X. He wrote this book as well, okay, The Plot to Kill Malcolm X. So he knows more about that than I do, all right? So this is why he's critical of this documentary, because he said, I submitted the evidence to them, and they did not include that in the documentary. Carl Evans went on to say, quote, I was contacted by Shayla Harris of ARC Media on January 9th, 2018, regarding the company's planned series on Malcolm X. I told her that I could not be part of it, but 2 days later, I sent her panels from the Black Zapruder film, Zapruder, the Black Zapruder film, They Killed Malcolm X. Carl Evans criticized one of the main sources of information of the film, Abdul Rahman Muhammad, who claims that his obsession with Malcolm X's murder changed the trajectory of his own life. Quote, the truth is that his life had no trajectory as far as anyone knows. He's kind of fumbled his way through life until now, end quote, Carl Evans chastised. According to author Carl Evans, Netflix got it wrong, something he worked to prevent. Carl Evans said, I wanted to make sure that ARC Media did not fall for the bull patties about Norman 3X Butler being innocent of the assassination. Despite this cautionary advice, ARC Media chose to ignore the only positive proof that Butler was not at his home with an injured leg at the time of the assassination. No, he was right there on the front row killing Malcolm X, end quote, Carl Evans wrote. Why does this information keep getting passed on? Why do people keep looking over this information? Quote, the biggest problem with most scholars is that they have fallen for the lies in a 1977 affidavit written by Thomas Hagen, aka Talmadge Hare, and another affidavit signed by Benjamin Goodman, okay? According to Carl Evans, Thomas Hagen lied during the trial. Carl Evans wrote, quote, I can understand Thomas Hagen lying for his misguided brothers in the Nation of Islam, but Benjamin Karim or Benjamin Goodman, Kareem, K-A-R-I-M, it was Karim, because usually Kareem is K-A-R-E-E-M. But Benjamin Karim or Benjamin Goodman totally dishonored Malcolm X by giving defense lawyers a ludicrous affidavit. Karim notes in the affidavit that Thomas Johnson and Thomas 15X Johnson and Norman 3X Butler could not have been in the Audubon ballroom at the time of the assassination, but then admits that he was not an eyewitness to the murder, Carl Evans writes. Carl Evans says all the evidence that Butler was not involved is there, just ignored. Okay, Carl Evans says all the evidence that Butler was not involved is there, just ignored. On February 7th, I wrote the attached letter to Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus R. Vance Jr. and his associate Peter T. Casolaro. I have asked them to review the photos showing a man who I maintain is Norman Butler attempting to view Malcolm X's body. Some scholars incredulously claim that the man is a doppelganger, somebody who looks like somebody else, a twin, maybe not a identical twin, but somebody who looks like somebody else, a doppelganger, okay? So much so that people get the two confused. He said, doppelganger my ass, that's Norman Butler, okay? All right. So if you saw the press conference when Harvey Weinstein was convicted by the jury on February 24th, and there was a press conference, Cyrus R. Vance, the Manhattan District Attorney, he was leading the press conference, okay, if you saw that. Now, in his letter to Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus R. Vance Jr. and associate Peter T. Casolaro, Carl Evans wrote, quote, I am writing as regards the current misguided attempt to, quote unquote, clear the name of Norman 3X Butler, aka Muhammad Abdul Aziz, one of 3 Black Muslims who shot Malcolm X to death inside the Audubon Ballroom on February 21st, 1965. While it is true, as retired Detective Anthony V. Bouza, B-O-U-Z-A, noted recently in the New York Times, that the investigation was botched in many ways, it most certainly was not botched in terms of Norman Butler. As the old movie tag goes, quote unquote, the Butler did it. Okay, so all right, so that's Carl Evans in this blog that he wrote, challenging, refuting this theory from the documentary Who Killed Malcolm X. And Carl Evans is an expert on the assassination of Malcolm, etc. It was picked up by this by Mogul Dom Nation, the Mogul Dom Nation, moguldom.com. The name of this article: Scholar on Nation of Islam, Carl Evans, E-V-A-N-Z-Z, goes off on Netflix Malcolm X documentary, calls it nonsense. This is from February 17th, 2020. So everybody check this out. And check, you know, I think people should watch the documentary, Who Killed Malcolm X, but realize that everything that's in the documentary is not true. It gives you get information to, I think maybe get an understanding of what happened, etc. But then also understand that there's some information that's left out, and understand like the behind the scenes here. Okay. But we don't understand history largely. I mean, and this month, when I go speak at churches and things like that, and do my presentations for African American History Month, speak period. So I speak across the country. I was speaking at Chicago State University, February 9th? I think it was February 15th, Saturday, February 15th. I was speaking at Chicago State University, and speaking at a lot of these African American churches. It's a good thing the pastors are inviting me in, because they're telling me people don't understand history, and we have a lot of work to do. Okay, so Quentin said, okay, so Sean Crawley is repeating for anyone. Okay, can you all hear me? The live feed should not be repeating. We should be good. Refresh your screen. Okay, everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page as well. All right, so let's continue. We just posted the link here to that article. And then, let's see, February 11th, NBCnews.com has the article, Malcolm X assassination case may be reopened after Netflix documentary. All right. And so talk about, it looks at how the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is re-examining the case here. District Attorney Cy Vance has met with representatives from the Innocence Project and Associated Counsel regarding this matter. He has determined that the District Attorney's Office will begin a preliminary review of the matter, which will inform the office regarding what further investigative steps may be undertaken. District Attorney Cy Vance has assigned Senior Trial Counsel Peter Casolaro and Conviction Integrity Deputy Chief Charles King to lead this preliminary review. So they are doing a preliminary review of the case. The Innocence Project lauded the district attorney's decision to review the case and its assignment of Casolaro and King to the case. All right, so check out this article also from NBCnews.com. All right, now, so we know February 21st is the anniversary of the assassination of Malcolm X. Then also, February 21st is also the anniversary of Dr. King and 115 protesters during the Montgomery Bus Boycott being arrested. All right, so I'm going to talk about that next. African-American business owners, post your name, your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network, and email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Okay, current promotion, buy 1 month, get 2 months free. All right, let's post this here. Okay, so EJI.org, Equal Justice Initiative. You see the articles we post from them each day dealing with this date in African American history. They have a good entry for February 21st, 1956, the road to the Montgomery Bus Boycott. The road to the Montgomery Bus Boycott. So African Americans in Montgomery, Alabama began the Montgomery Bus Boycott Monday morning, December 5th, 1955. It started out as a one-day bus boycott and ended up lasting 381 days. So on February 21st, 1956, 115, a Montgomery, Alabama grand jury indicted 115 leaders of the Montgomery Bus Boycott, including Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Reverend Ralph Abernathy. The indictments later reduced to a total of 89 indicting 89 people as opposed to 115, accused protest organizers of violating a 1921 state statute forbidding boycotts without just cause. So grand jurors repudiated anti-segregation efforts in the grand jury report and accompanied the indictment. That accompanied the indictment. Quote, in this state, we are committed to segregation by custom and law. We intend to maintain it, end quote, the grand jury wrote. Quote, the settlement of differences over school attendance, public transportation, and other facilities must be made within those laws which reflect our way of life, end quote. As the indicted boycott leaders surrendered themselves into custody at the police station, hundreds of African-American supporters gathered outside in a show of support for their efforts to challenge racial discrimination and fight segregation in Alabama. Okay, so this was February 21st, 1956. If you watch the videos I do here on my fan page, the African History Network, and you follow me on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, you know that just a month before, January 30th, 1956, Dr. King's house was firebombed. This was during the Montgomery Bus Boycott. All right. His house was going to be firebombed again in September 1956. Okay, because there were death threats on his life, Rosa Parks' life, E.D. Nixon, who was a former president of the NAACP. He was a civil rights leader there. E.D. Nixon, a lot of them had death threats on their lives. And we know Rosa Parks eventually is going to be, even after the Montgomery Bus Boycott, she still gets death threats. So her and her husband, Raymond Parks, they're going to have to leave Montgomery, Alabama, and they come to Detroit. It's going to be Representative John Conyers who gave her a job in his congressional office. So of those indicted, only Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was prosecuted. Of those indicted, so it was 115 people arrested. There were 89 who were indicted, but of those indicted, only Dr. King was prosecuted, despite defense evidence showing that the boycott was peaceful and that discriminatory bus service inflicted harm on the African American community. Dr. King was quickly convicted, fined, and given a suspended jail sentence of 1 year of hard labor. Okay, he was quickly convicted. He was fined $1,000 and given a suspended jail sentence of 1 year of hard labor. The indictment of Dr. King's conviction strengthened local African Americans' resolve to fight segregation and attracted national attention to the growing civil rights movement. Okay, so this is February 21st, 1956. And the Montgomery Bus Boycott is not going to end until December 20th, 1956. Okay, so you can check out this and more information at eji.org. They have a calendar, and each day they have this date in African American history. Okay, this is from February 21st, the road to the Montgomery Bus Boycott, the road to the Montgomery Bus Boycott. Okay, so I want to go to this next topic here. There are a lot of campaign ads from Mike Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg has spent, I guess now it's about $400 million on campaign ads, especially TV ads, right? Mike Bloomberg, former three-term mayor of the city of New York. And in some of these campaign ads, it features President Barack Obama. And I've heard a number of specifically African Americans saying that President Obama is endorsing Mike Bloomberg. Why is President Obama endorsing Mike Bloomberg? What have you? So I want to let people know, because and this is going to tie into the next story. President Obama has not endorsed anybody. If President Obama endorses a candidate, when he endorses a candidate, you will know. He probably won't endorse anybody until there's actually a nominee. You will know because he'll say that I'm endorsing this candidate. But but what a lot of people don't know is that there are 6 candidates who are using President Obama's likeness and statements from President Obama, et cetera, in their campaign ads. All right. There's a good article from political.com. Political.com has a good article dealing with this. And, when I hear people say things like why I saw people posting on Facebook, why is President Obama endorsing Bloomberg, things like this? And I have to ask them, one, where are you getting your information from? 2, when you watch the TV ads from Bloomberg, the dates of the quotes from President Obama are right in the TV ads. It's right in front of your face. They're from 2008, 2013, 2016, 2018. These are all old quotes from President Obama. But if we look at this article from political.com, now starring in Democratic campaign ads, Barack Obama. This is from February 7th, 2020. The former president has made a good point of not endorsing anyone in the 2020 primary. The presidential candidates have made a point of ignoring that fact. So 6 candidates, this is what a lot of people don't understand. 6 candidates, former VP Joe Biden, Tom Steyer, Michael Bloomberg, Elizabeth Warren, Deval Patrick, who has dropped out of the race, Tulsi Gabbard, who should drop out of the race, have included the former president in at least one of their TV and digital ads. This week alone saw 5 new Obama ads on airwaves in New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina. Okay, this article is from February 7th, 2020. While President Obama has made a point of not endorsing anyone this year, his would-be successors are hoping to tap the reservoir of Democratic goodwill surrounding him in the hopes of getting an edge in the run-up to the February 11th New Hampshire primary. Quote, "It's the perfect visual validation. Voters can recognize Barack Obama in a nanosecond," said Eric Jaye, a California-based Democratic political consultant. Quote, "Obama might as well be on Mount Rushmore for Democrats. It's so powerful and instantaneous," end quote. Now, most of the spots show footage of President Obama lauding the candidates by name in speeches or on the campaign trail. Others merely include pictures of him by their side. Others merely include pictures of him by their side. All drive the message that the candidates running the ads are, at least in some measure, approved by a former president who is beloved by the grassroots. Former VP Joe Biden was the first to highlight his relationship with President Barack Obama by making him the center of a TV ad that ran over the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend. Using audio from a 2017 speech, the ad shows President Obama bestowing Biden with the Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the U.S. So Biden is a quote, "resilient, humble, and loyal servant," end quote, President Obama says, adding that he's, quote, "nowhere close to finished," end quote. Billionaire candidates Michael Bloomberg and Tom Steyer have also embraced President Obama in an attempt to establish their party bona fides, piecing together sound bites from his speeches that reference them directly or indirectly. Now, there was also an article about Senator Elizabeth Warren, okay? Because Senator Elizabeth Warren has a ad, it's a digital ad, if I remember correctly. And this was from 2010. And this centered around the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, okay? I'm going to try to pull that article up also. Because it was Senator Elizabeth Warren who created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So thehill.com has an article from February 5th, 2020, 2 days before the one from Politico. New Warren ad touts Obama's 2010 praise for Consumer Bureau. Okay, as well. So if, you know, this is really important, because if many of us can't tell the difference between a campaign ad and an actual endorsement, in the ad from Michael Bloomberg, they are pretty much omnipresent. I mean, I see them every time, you know, I turn on MSNBC, you know, I see a lot of his campaign ads. But when you watch the ad, the dates of the quotes from President Obama are in the lower left-hand corner and the lower right-hand corner. They are in white text. It's right in front of your face. So if we can't figure that out and figure it out, that's not an endorsement, then how are we going to be able to identify a Russian disinformation campaign? Because as the information came out from the New York Times and Washington Post, the Russians are meddling in the 2020 election like they did in 2016. Trump has been briefed on it. Senator Bernie Sanders has been briefed on it. The House Intelligence Committee has been briefed on it. So this is something that, like, we really, really need to pay attention to. Okay, let's continue with the article from Politico. So billionaire candidates Michael Bloomberg and Tom Steyer have also embraced President Obama in an attempt to establish their party bona fides, piecing together sound bites from his speeches that reference them directly or indirectly. In Michael Bloomberg's spot, President Obama calls him a, quote, leader throughout the country, end quote. Tom Steyer uses footage from Obama's first campaign swing through South Carolina to highlight Edith Childs, Childs, who coined his famous "fired up, ready to go" slogan in 2008 and has now endorsed Tom Steyer for president. So Edith Childs, who's an African-American female elder, she coined the "fired up, ready to go" slogan that President Obama used in 2008. She's endorsed Tom Steyer. President Obama has not endorsed Tom Steyer. Michael Bloomberg has put the most money behind Obama's TV ad. He spent more than $1.2 million in over 70 different markets, according to advertising analytics. Now, that's at the time this article came out, came out February 7th. Even Elizabeth Warren had a cool relationship with the Obama administration. And she released a TV ad on Tuesday with a similar congratulatory message from the former president. It's voiced over by audio from a 2010 Rose Garden speech in which President Obama commends Senator Elizabeth Warren for her work founding the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. In the ad, President Obama says, "Elizabeth understands what I believe, that a strong, growing economy begins with a strong middle class," end quote. Now, it is not unusual for presidential candidates to feature former presidents or prominent political figures in their advertisements as validators. President Obama himself, in his 2012 reelection campaign, included audio from a Colin Powell interview on CBS in which the former four-star general and Secretary of State said he would endorse President Obama for a second term. Colin Powell holds up Obama's record on the economy, saying, quote, "I think we ought to keep on the track that we are on," end quote. Republican candidates in House and Senate races this year have also borrowed from Donald Trump in their ads. A number of red state House candidates have used footage from his rallies and push platform points that mirror Trump's positions, shoring up support ahead of his own primaries. okay? Representatives for President Obama would not comment on details of the Democratic ads or specify which campaigns talked to President Obama before running them. They maintain that the former president's increased profile on the airways has not yet caused any tension between his office and any campaigns. The former president has remained notably silent this primary season, not making public appearances with any of the Democratic contenders and waiting to endorse before there is a clear front runner. But with less than 3 weeks until the South Carolina primary, and South Carolina is coming up, usage of Obama's likeness in ads could surge as campaigns make a last-ditch effort to increase African-American support. Quote, he is enormously well regarded across the party. The timing has more to do with the intensity of the competition than it does the particular affection among African-American voters. All right. So check out these two articles. One from Politico.com, now starring in Democratic campaign ads, Barack Obama. Okay, number one. And then, so that's from Politico.com. And the other one is from TheHill.com. And this deals with the campaign ad from Elizabeth Warren. Okay. New Warren ad touts Obama's 2010 praise for Consumer Bureau. But so President Obama has not endorsed anybody. All right, so I'm sitting back looking at how easily people are fooled, and I just don't understand this. Okay, so who we have here? How's everybody doing? This is a special edition of the African History Network show, Black Authors Village. All right. Yeah, African American business owners, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Our current promotion, buy 1 month, get 2 months free. We have some new advertisers here. So a lot of people are in the market to buy shoes, but you have wide feet. So the Wide Shoe Outlet can definitely help you. Okay, the Wide Shoe Outlet, their website is simplywide.com, simplywide.com. They also have a brick and mortar store in Marlow Heights, Maryland, 4279 Branch Avenue, 4279 Branch Avenue in Marlow Heights, Maryland. All right. They carry men and women's sizes up to 15 EE. Brands that they carry include Naturalizer, Soft Spots, Ross Homerson, Pro Pet Walking Cradles, Easy Street, and more. Okay. Visit their website, simplywide.com, simplywide.com. You can also give them a call, 301-702-1401, 301-702-1401. That is simplywide.com, the Wide Shoe Outlet. All right, so in 2020, a lot of people want to get their financial house in order, and certified financial planner Martisha Patterson can help you with this. Now, she has over 20 years of experience in the wealth management industry. You've seen some of the interviews I've done with her. And a certified financial planner is a resource who can help analyze your financial situation and discover resources you can use to maximize your success. Martisha Patterson will help you apply proven tools, techniques, and strategies so you can meet your financial goals. What she is offering is a transformative way of thinking, which will lead to a successful outcome. You can contact her for a free consultation today. Visit her website, PattersonPlans17.com. PattersonPlans17.com, or give her a call, 646-552-4384, 646-552-4384. Okay, don't let another month go by doing the same old thing, expecting a different result. All right. So let's go to this next story here. I was going to talk about do a recap of the Las Vegas Democratic debate that took place last week. I was going to do that Sunday night show. But I didn't do Sunday night show, as I said at the top of the show, because I was so busy. So let's do this here. How many of you all saw the Las Vegas debate? It became pretty contentious. We know that Mike Bloomberg came under fire. This was the first time Mike Bloomberg was on the debate stage. He had ran over by that time close to $400 million worth of TV ads, and Senator Elizabeth Warren really went after Mike Bloomberg. The Democratic candidates formed a circular firing squad last Wednesday night with arrows flying in all directions and fights breaking out between a seemingly infinite permutation of candidates on matters ranging from healthcare policy to lewd comments about women. I want to go to this. I want to go to this recap here of what took place. So I watched most of it, and I think so. Some people are freaking out about the candidates going after each other, and that's going to happen, and it should happen. But I think they should have spent more time also going after Trump. I think this was one of the mistakes that they made. Yes, they're going to have to. Yes, they're going to have to show the differences between themselves and other candidates. Yes, it's going to get contentious, et cetera. So I don't have a problem with them going at each other, but they should spend more time going after Donald Trump. All right, and some of these people need to drop out of the race as well. Amy Klobuchar, I don't think after if she doesn't post well in South Carolina, which she probably won't. I don't even know if she'll make it to Super Tuesday. Super Tuesday is March 3rd. Probably after Super Tuesday, she would definitely drop out. She hasn't won anything. Pete Buttigieg may drop out after March 3rd because March 3rd is Super Tuesday. 14 states have primaries on Tuesday, March 3rd. Those in Michigan, we vote Tuesday, March 10th. Okay. So I expect some more of these people to really drop out. So that people are asking, how long would Tom Steyer stay in, even though he's a billionaire? You don't become a billionaire by just throwing good money after bad money. Okay. So we'll have to see what happens with South Carolina. But South Carolina is coming up on Saturday. But the real test is going to be Super Tuesday, which is March 3rd. Now, the other question is, people are asking, well, wait a second. See, it takes 1,991 delegates to clinch the Democratic nomination. With so many people in the race and fighting for it, you still have people who are not, it's pretty clear, not going to get the nomination, like Pete Buttigieg. He probably won't get it. He should probably drop out. He should probably really drop out. He ain't going to get it. Bernie Sanders is on course he's the front runner now. He's on course. If he doesn't get 1991, he'll probably get more than anybody else. You have some people who are afraid of Bernie Sanders getting the nomination, and they're worried about what will that mean for the down ballot races. Will people come out and vote? Will Trump label him a socialist, which he will. He'll label him a socialist. But how will that impact the Democrats trying to take back control of the U.S. Senate, which they have to take back control of, to block these nominations to the federal bench that Donald Trump is doing? He's gotten 191 nominations confirmed as of December 2019. These are lifetime appointments. That's going to have a devastating impact on our future and our children's future. And also Democrats have to maintain control of the House of Representatives. It's not just about the presidency. It's not just about the White House. It's about Congress. And this is something that a lot of millennials don't really understand. They focus on the White House, millennials and younger people. So they just focus on the White House, but you got to focus on Congress. You have to be able to get these bills through both chambers of Congress to get them signed into law by a president. Okay, so let's go to this clip here. This is a recap of what happened. This is a recap of what happened on last Wednesday.
And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg.
I actually welcomed Mayor Bloomberg to the stage. I thought that he shouldn't be hiding
back
behind
this
his
up.
teeth.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg.
I actually welcomed Mayor Bloomberg to the stage. I thought that he shouldn't be hiding behind his TV ads. I don't think you look at Donald Trump and say, we need someone richer in the White House.
Let's put forward somebody who actually lives and works in a middle-class neighborhood, in an industrial Midwestern city. Let's put forward somebody who's actually a Democrat. Look,
one thing that I'm really worried about, embarrassed about, was how it turned out with stop and frisk. It got out of control.
And it's not whether he apologized or not, it's the policy. The policy was abhorrent, and it was, in fact, a violation of every right people have.
I have no tolerance for the kind of behavior that the Me Too movement has exposed. In my foundation, the person that runs it's a woman. 70% of the people there are women. In my company, lots and lots of women have big responsibilities. They get paid exactly the same as men.
And I hope you heard what his defense was. I've been nice to some women. Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
There's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them.
We are not going to beat Donald Trump with a man who has who knows how many non-disclosure agreements and the drip, drip, drip of stories of women saying they have been harassed and discriminated against. That's not what we do as Democrats.
I believe in democratic socialism for working people, not billionaires.
What a wonderful country we have. The best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What I miss here?
Well, you'll miss that I work in Washington, housewife.
That's the first problem.
Live in Burlington, house too.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer cat. Forgive me for that. Where is your home? Which tax haven?
New York,
your home?
New York City, thank you very much. And I pay all my taxes. And I'm happy to do it because I get something for it.
And Mitch McConnell, I've been the object of his affection and the president's affection. Where he's gone after me, this new Republican Party, after me, after my son, after my family. I don't need to be told I'm a friend of Mitch McConnell's. Mitch McConnell has been the biggest pain in my neck in a long, long time. And that's what we are saying, Pete, is maybe it's a time for the working class of this country to have a little bit of power in Washington rather than your billionaire campaign contributors.
all right, look, first of all,
and if there are a few people who make ugly remarks, who attack trade union leaders, I disown those people. They are not part of our movement.
but leadership is about what you draw out of people. It's about how you inspire people to act.
I have an idea of how we can stop sexism on the internet. We could nominate a woman for candidate for president of the United States.
Mayor Buttigieg really has a slogan that was thought up by his consultants to paper over a thin version of a plan that would leave millions of people unable to afford their health care. It's not a plan, it's a PowerPoint. And Amy's plan is even less. It's like a Post-it note, insert plan here. Bernie,
I'm more of a Microsoft Word guy.
Okay. I must say I take personal offense since Post-it notes were invented in my state.
But you're staking your candidacy on your Washington experience. You're on the committee that oversees border security. You're on the committee that does trade. You're literally part of the committee that's overseeing these things. And we're not able to speak to literally the first thing about the politics of the country to ourselves.
Are you trying to say that I'm dumb, or are you mocking me here, Pete?
I'm saying you shouldn't trivialize
I made an error. People sometimes forget names. He's basically saying that I don't have the experience to be president of the United States. I have passed over 100 bills as a lead Democrat since being in the U.S. Senate. I am the one, not you, that has won statewide in congressional district after congressional district.
Let's just be clear. Missing a name all by itself does not indicate that you do not understand what's going on. I just think this is amazing.
Okay, so it got pretty heated. That was from Wednesday, February 19th in Las Vegas. Now, some people say what happens in Vegas should stay in Vegas. Obviously, that did not. All right, so that was from the 9th Democratic presidential candidate debate. You can check that out at msnbc.com or NBCnews.com. Watch highlights of the Las Vegas Democratic debate in 5 minutes. And I posted the link here on the thread of the broadcast from NBCnews.com. Who won the Democratic debate in Las Vegas? This is an analysis. Here's who went scorched earth and who may struggle to salvage their presidential hopes from the ashes. And that video clip is in the article that I just posted. All right. So last week also, Roger Stone, the dirty trickster, the longtime friend of Donald Trump, was found guilty in federal court, as he should be. Longtime Trump advisor Roger Stone was sentenced to 40 months in federal prison last week, Thursday, for obstructing a congressional investigation into Russia's meddling in the 2016 presidential election. Why are so many of Donald Trump's friends going to prison? Why are so many of Donald Trump's friends going to prison? How is it that Donald Trump knows so many crooked people? That's a really, really good question. Now, there's an old saying, birds of a feather flock together. And Donald Trump, you know, when he ran, he talked about draining the swamp and things like this. But Donald Trump is the swamp thing. I mean, he attracts these type of people. This is, I mean, this is who he is. All right, so quote, U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who Trump is attacking on Twitter. U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson said, quote, he was not prosecuted, as some have complained, for standing up for the president. He was prosecuted for covering up for the president. He was not prosecuted for standing up for the president. He was prosecuted for covering up for the president. There was nothing unfair, phony, or disgraceful about the investigation or the prosecution, she said. At his core, Mr. Stone is an insecure person who craves and recklessly pursues attention, end quote. So Roger Stone showed no emotion while the sentence was read. And let me see if I can pull up this article here. Okay, yeah, Washington Post has this article, Roger Stone sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison. Okay, we'll post this link for you. So Roger Stone showed no emotion while the sentence was read. Also, he almost appearing bored. He stared with his hands in his pockets and continually rocked on his heels, but he smiled outside the Washington courthouse as he left. Roger Stone will not have to report to prison until the judge acts on a defense motion for a new trial based on a claim of juror bias. Okay, so he's not expected to get a new trial either. Now, Donald Trump said Roger Stone has, quote, a very good chance of exoneration, end quote, just hours after the GOP operative was sentenced. I'm following this very closely, and I want to see it play out in its fullest because Roger has a very good chance of exoneration, in my opinion, Trump said, adding that he believed the jury forewoman in Stone's trial was biased against him, making the trial unfair. That's a joke. Okay, that's a joke. And if she was biased, why didn't the prosecution use the opportunity to strike her from the jury? So Trump is, so it is suspected that Trump is going to pardon Roger Stone because Trump likes to pardon these criminals. And we just saw 11 people pardoned by Trump, and Trump is pardoning people who are accused, who were convicted of doing some of the same things Trump is involved in, whether it's dealing with bribery, all different types of criminal activity, okay? Campaign finance law violations, things like this. Washington Post has an article, Roger Stone sentenced to 3 to 5 years, sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison. Roger Stone sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison. A federal judge on Thursday sentenced Roger Stone, Donald Trump's longtime friend, to serve 3 years and 4 months in prison for impeding a congressional investigation of Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Okay, so check out that article also here, and we'll post this link. This is from Washington Post. All right, how's everybody doing? And you can listen to the audio podcast of our various broadcasts. Click on AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Right on the home page, click on Listen to Podcasts. And we have the audio podcasts, almost 1,000 of them. So the various episodes of the African History Network show, we have them in audio podcast format and other broadcasts that we do throughout the week as well. Our 15 DVD Black History Month bundle pack is on sale right now at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. The Michael Imhotep Black History Month 15 DVD bundle pack. And I threw in the extra one also, which deals with a lot of the history of African American History Month. So this is on sale right now, $100. I think it's like a $250 value. It's on the homepage of our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And we just posted the link here as well. Okay, so let's see, Thursday and Friday. Let's see, Thursday, February 20th. Yeah, Thursday, February 20th, the story broke from the New York Times. Lawmakers are warned that Russia is meddling to re-elect Trump. Lawmakers are warned that Russia is meddling to re-elect Trump. A classified briefing to House members is said to have angered Donald Trump, who complained that Democrats would weaponize the disclosure. Okay, so this is what many people have been saying. FBI Director Christopher Wray, others have said the Russians never left. They're still here. They will interfere in the 2020 election, just like they did in 2016. Okay, so if we look at this article, intelligence officials warned, let's see here. Just 1 second, look at my notes here. Okay, we'll go to this. We'll also look at some of Donald Trump's pardons and commutations. But intelligence officials warned House lawmakers last week that Russia was interfering in the 2020 campaign to get Donald Trump reelected. 5 people familiar with the matter said a disclosure to Congress that angered Donald Trump, who complained that Democrats would use it against him. The day after the February 13th briefing to lawmakers, the president berated Joseph McGuire, the outgoing acting director of national intelligence, the DNI, Director of National Intelligence. He was the outgoing acting Director of National Intelligence, for allowing this briefing to take place. People familiar with the exchange said Donald Trump was particularly irritated that Representative Adam Schiff, who chairs the House Intelligence Committee and was the leader of the impeachment proceedings, was at the briefing. Okay, it's a briefing of the House Intelligence Committee. Adam Schiff is the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. So, of course, he's going to be at the briefing. See, there's something wrong with this fool. I mean, there's something clearly wrong. This dude is getting worse day by day. I warned people about Trump in 2016 before the election. He's getting worse day by day. Then you look at the information coming out about the coronavirus and how unprepared the U.S. is to combat the coronavirus, because Trump has cut funding to the CDC. So there was an article that Rachel Maddow talked about on MSNBC last night, February 24th, and then today on Deadline White House, Nicole Wallace talked about it as well. This article is from foreignpolicy.com. Foreignpolicy.com. I posted it last night on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. Trump has sabotaged America's coronavirus response. This is from January 31st, 2020. Trump has sabotaged America's coronavirus response as it improvises its way through a public health crisis. The United States has never been less prepared for a pandemic. Okay, and let's see. Let me get to the. In this article, it says in the spring of. Is that the one that I want? Hold on, just 1 second here. In May of 2018, Trump ordered the NSC's entire global health security unit shut down, calling for reassignment of Rear Admiral Timothy Zeimer, Z-I-E-M-E-R, and dissolution of his team inside the agency. The month before, then White House National Security Advisor John Bolton pressured Zeimer's Department of Homeland Security counterpart, Tom Bossert, to resign along with his team. Neither the NSC nor DHS epidemic teams have been replaced. The global health section of the CDC, Center of Disease Control, was so drastically cut in 2018 that much of its staff was laid off, and the number of countries it was working in was reduced from 49 countries to merely 10 countries. Okay, I'm sorry. The number of staff was cut from 49 to 10. Okay. Meanwhile, throughout the year 2018, the U.S. Agency for International Development and its director, Mark Green, came repeatedly under fire from both the White House and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And though Congress has so far managed to block Trump administration plans to cut the U.S. Public Health Service commissioned core by 40%. Okay, Trump is trying to cut the U.S. Public Health Service commissioned core by 40%. Now, Congress, so when the White House submits the annual budget to Congress, based upon Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution, Congress has the final say. They can approve the budget, alter the budget, okay? So Trump is trying to cut the funding to the U.S. Public Health Service Commission core by 40%. The disease-fighting cadres have steadily eroded as retiring officers go unreplaced. These moves that Trump is making the U.S. very vulnerable to a pandemic. So now he's asking Congress for $2.5 billion to help fight the coronavirus. Well, you should have already, well, first of all, you shouldn't have cut funding to these various agencies. One. Two, you should have already asked for the funding, because everybody saw this coming. Public health advocates have been ringing alarm bells to no avail. You had one expert who's been warning for 2 years that the United States was in grave danger should a pandemic emerge. In 2017 and 2018, the philanthropist billionaire Bill Gates met repeatedly with then National Security Advisor John Bolton, B-O-L-T-O-N, and his predecessor, H.R. McMaster, warning that ongoing cuts to the global health disease infrastructure would render the United States vulnerable to, as he put it, the, quote, significant probability of a large and lethal modern day pandemic occurring in our lifetimes, end quote. And an independent bipartisan panel formed by the Center for Strategic and International Studies concluded that lack of preparedness was so acute in the Trump administration that the, quote, United States must either pay now and gain protection and security, or wait for the next epidemic and pay a much greater price in human and economic costs, end quote. The next epidemic is now here. The next epidemic is now here. So all these people during 2016 election, see, this is what I explained people during 2016. And once again, I was doing nationally syndicated radio 5 days a week. I was doing my show, the Michael Imhotep show on the Empowerment Radio Network, guest hosting Roland Martin's daily nationally syndicated radio show, doing radio 2 days a week here in Detroit on the morning show, Thursday mornings on Wake Up with Steve Hood, then doing my show Sunday nights, the African History Network show. And as I was explaining to people, number one, the election was not about one person versus another person. It wasn't about Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, Hillary versus Donald. That's not what the election was about. The election was dealing with the trajectory of this country for the next 20, 25, 30 years, etc. One. Two, you're dealing with policies that are going to have a significant impact on this country, but also on the African-American community. This ain't about one person versus another person. You're dealing with Supreme Court nominations, which are lifetime appointments. You're dealing with federal bench nominations. Trump has gotten 191 confirmed in the first from January 2017 through December 2019. You're dealing with criminal justice reform. You're dealing with the Department of Justice, Department of Education, EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Energy, all of this, HUD, Housing and Urban Development. You're dealing with all these policies that are going to have a huge impact on African Americans. But you also are dealing with the CDC, Center of Disease Control. You're dealing with the U.S. Department of Public Health Services. All of this is impacted by who is president. So the article for foreignpolicy.com, and if you watch MSNBC, you've seen them cite this article and talk about this. The next pandemic is now here. We'll soon know the cost imposed by the Trump administration's early negligence and present panic. See, the other thing, and one of the things that Nicole Wallace talked about on Deadline White House today is that Trump has been declaring war on the scientific community, because Trump has been ignoring the signs of climate change as well. So Trump has been declaring war on the scientific community. This is one of the most ignorant ass people I've ever seen. Now, it's different if you just running a company, but you are running a country that has 330 million people. And the decisions that you make will have a catastrophic impact on them. On January 29th, 2020, Trump announced the creation of the president's coronavirus task force, an all-male group of a dozen advisors, 5 from the White House staff, chaired by Secretary of Health and Human Services Alex Azar, A-Z-A-R. The task force includes men from the CDC, State Department, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, the Office of Management and Budget, and the Transportation Department. It's not clear how this task force will function or when it will even convene. In the absence of a formal structure, the government has resorted to improvisation. In the absence of a formal structure, the government has resorted to improvisation. In practical terms, just one second here. In practical terms, the U.S. government's public health efforts is led by Daniel Jernigan, Jernigan, the incident commander for the Wuhan coronavirus response at the CDC. Jernigan is responsible for convening meetings of the nation's state health commissioners and briefing CDC Director Robert Redfield and his boss, Alex Azar. Meanwhile, state-level health leaders told me that they have been sharing information with one another and deciding how best to prepare their medical and public health workers without waiting for instructions from federal leadership. The most important federal program for local medical worker and hospital epidemic training, however, will run out of money in May 2020 as Congress has failed to vote on its funding. The HHS office, Health and Human Services. The Health and Human Services Office of the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response is the bulwark between hospitals and health departments versus pandemic threats. Last year, 2019, HHS requested $2.58 billion but Congress did not act. Read this article here. This is deep. These are things that presidents do. I mean, people don't understand how serious this is and how devastating Trump is to this country, especially for African Americans. This is not a game. This is the battery in the smoke detector is chirping. And what people who are not paying attention are going to end up doing is trying to replace the battery in the smoke detector after the house burns down. Because I'm warning you now what will happen if this fool messes around and gets reelected to a second term. Okay, read this article here from foreignpolicy.com. Trump has sabotaged America's coronavirus response as it improvises its way through a public health crisis. The United States has never been less prepared for a pandemic. So this fool brags about the stock market, brags about the economy. And if you watch the broadcast I did, was it 3 weeks ago? Either the one I did about his State of the Union address or the week after that, because the economy is not nearly just as strong as he pretends that it is. There are a lot of holes in this economy, and the job creation is slowing down in this country. One, the pace of job creation is slowing down. One, two, many of these jobs that are being created are not paying living wages. And so when you have things like the percentage of bankruptcies of farms increased by 20% in 2019, and that's tied into his trade war with China, okay? He doesn't want to talk about things like this. So the economy is not nearly as strong as he pretends that it is. And then it's also slowing down. Okay, look at there was an article from news1.com that dealt with the unemployment rate for African Americans, which whenever we hear the unemployment rate talked about, and they talk about it's 3.5%, 3.6%, we also have to look at the African American unemployment rate and really understand the real implications. Okay, so Black unemployment rises after Trump brags how low it is at State of the Union. Those who believe Trump's rosy outlook about the state of Black workers got a wake-up call with January jobs report, because the unemployment rate for African Americans has increased for 3 months in a row. Trump doesn't want to talk about that. Okay, read this article here from news1.com. News One has some really good articles. YourBlackWorld.net is back up also, back up and running. It's been up and running for a few months. So check out YourBlackWorld.net as well. The news source from Dr. Boyce Watkins. Check that out also. Black unemployment rises after Trump brags about how low it is at the State of the Union. So even when the African-American unemployment rate is increasing, Trump still says it's the lowest in history. Okay, he's just lying. And he doesn't want to talk about the fact that the African-American unemployment rate in general is twice as high as the white unemployment rate. He doesn't want to deal with that. And he definitely doesn't want to talk about the African-American female, why African-American females make 61 cents for every dollar the average white male makes. Okay, he doesn't want to deal with any of that stuff. Okay, let's go back to the article from the New York Times that I was talking about. Then we got to the one about from foreignpolicy.com, because this coronavirus is growing, and the U.S. under this buffoon is totally ill-prepared to fight against it. All right, lawmakers are warned that Russia is meddling to re-elect Trump. This is from New York Times, February 20th, 2020. So the day after so we're going back to this article, the day after the February 13th briefing to lawmakers, Donald Trump berated Joseph Maguire, the outgoing acting director of national intelligence, for allowing it to take place. People familiar with the exchange said Donald Trump was particularly irritated that Representative Adam B. Schiff, Democrat of California, who is the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, was allowed to be at the briefing, because he's the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, and Joseph Maguire, the acting director of national intelligence, was briefing the House Intelligence Committee. So of course he's going to be there. During the briefing to the House Intelligence Committee, Donald Trump's allies challenged the conclusions, arguing that he had been tough on Russia and that he had strengthened European security. He has not been tough on Russia. Okay. Now, Congress has passed sanctions against Russia, things like this, and Trump was reluctant and dragged his feet signing those sanctions into law. But Trump himself has not been tough on Russia. Some intelligence officials viewed the briefing as a tactical error, saying that the conclusions could have been delivered in a less pointed manner or left out entirely to avoid angering Republicans. The intelligence official who delivered the briefing, Shelby Pearson, is an aide to Mr. Maguire and has a reputation for speaking bluntly. Though intelligence officials have previously told lawmakers that Russia's interference campaign was continuing, last week's briefing included what appeared to be new information, that Russia intended to interfere with the 2020 Democratic primaries as well as the general election. Now, at the time of this reporting and subsequently, it's unclear exactly how they are saying Russia will interfere. What we do know is in the 2016 election, Russians through the Internet Research Agency, the IRA, took out ads, about 3,500 ads on Facebook, okay? And these ads were ads that many of them were were either pro Donald Trump or anti-Hillary Clinton ads, and some of them were pro Bernie Sanders ads. Some of them were targeting African Americans and trying to discourage African Americans from either voting, trying to discourage them from voting for Hillary Clinton, or discourage them from voting, period. Okay, so these are the types of these are the types of disinformation campaigns that Russia was engaged in and will do again in 2020. So this stuff is serious. So we know that in 2016, Republicans engaged in a voter suppression campaign targeting African Americans, targeting young college students, targeting Hispanics, but also Russians engaged in a voter suppression campaign targeting African Americans also. So on Wednesday, Donald Trump announced that he was replacing Mr. McGuire with Richard Grenell, the ambassador to Germany, and an aggressively vocal Trump supporter. Richard Grenell is totally unqualified to be acting director of national intelligence or to be director of national intelligence. And though some current and former officials speculated that the briefing might have played a role in the move firing McGuire, two administration officials said the timing was coincidental. Richard Grenell had been in discussions with the administration about taking on new roles, they said, and Donald Trump had never felt a kinship with Mr. McGuire. Now, spokeswoman for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and its Election Security Office declined to comment at the time of the article from the New York Times. A White House spokesman did not immediately respond to requests for comment. A Democratic House Intelligence Committee official called the February 13th, 2020 briefing an important update about the integrity of our upcoming elections and said that members of both parties attended, including Representative Devin Nunes of California, the top Republican on the committee. In a tweet on Thursday evening, Representative Adam Schiff, chair of the House Intelligence Committee, said that it appeared that Donald Trump was, quote, again jeopardizing our efforts to stop foreign meddling with his objections to the briefing. Okay, quote, again jeopardizing our efforts to stop foreign meddling, end quote, with his objections to the briefing. Now, Donald Trump has long accused the intelligence community's assessment of Russia's 2016 interference as the work of a deep state conspiracy intent on undermining the validity of his elections. This is a bunch of nonsense. He doesn't want to admit that really Russia meddled in the election. This is what this boils down to. Intelligence officials feel burned by their experience after the last election, when their work became a subject of intense political debate and is now a focus of a Justice Department investigation. Okay, so you can read the rest of this. This is an extensive article from New York Times. Lawmakers are warned that Russia is meddling to re-elect Trump. Okay, so that was Thursday, February 20th, and then from New York Times, and then Friday, February 21st, the story came out from Washington Post. Bernie Sanders briefed by U.S. officials that Russia is trying to help his presidential campaign. Okay, let me post a link here to this article from the New York Times. U.S. officials have told Senator Bernie Sanders that Russia is attempting to help his presidential campaign as part of an effort to interfere with the Democratic contest, according to people familiar with the matter. Okay, we'll pick that up, and I'm going to let you hear what Bernie Sanders said. Bernie Sanders condemned the intervention from Russia. Donald Trump did not condemn the intervention from Russia. I wonder why Donald Trump did not condemn the intervention from Russia. He didn't say, I don't want your help. He didn't say, stop that, anything like that. I wonder why. Okay. All right. Well, it's 2020, and a lot of people are getting in shape for 2020. A lot of African-American women are doing that. And SheRanHerselfFit.com can help you with that. Now, She Ran Herself Fit's mission is to inspire and motivate women to make healthy lifestyle changes. She Ran Herself Fit is a brand that promotes women living a healthy lifestyle, okay, by making small sacrifices in our daily routine and changing our diet. We can combat many of the different diseases that are prevalent in the African-American community. The owner of She Ran Herself Fit, her name is Felicia. She lost over 200 pounds by changing her diet and running. And you can see when you go to the website, SheRanHerselfFit.com, you can see pictures of before and after Felicia. She looks fantastic. Running may not be your motivation, but find what drives you to be fit. She Ran Herself Fit apparel can be purchased at SheRanHerselfFit.com. So visit their website today, SheRanHerselfFit.com, and let them know you found out about this from the African History Network. Okay. So author Teresa Roseman is the author of the book, She Remembered Her Path. She Remembered Her Path is a poem which centers on a character named Sheteria, who is a woman who finds herself in trouble. Now, Sheteria feels she cannot make decisions that were simple in her younger life. The fear is she has stepped off the path she has created and now needs guidance to return to her confident self. Maybe Sheteria needs a vision board, right? So the book, She Remembered Her Path, is available on eBay, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon.com. And you can also get it in Kindle form at Amazon.com as well. R Credit Services and Chandra Middleton are here to help you get your credit in order in 2020. Are you tired of having poor credit? Are you tired of paying those high double-digit interest rates? Would you like to purchase your dream home one day, or are you trying to get a car loan? RRRCreditServices.com is your one-stop when it comes to credit education and repair. They equip you by providing solutions which will enable you to rebuild your financial future. The affordable cost to become a new client is just $30 for the first month. Take the first step by giving them a call at 1-800-607-1989, 1-800-607-1989 for a free credit consultation. Let them know you found out about this from the African History Network. And also visit RRRCreditServices.com, and either Chandra or one of her assistants will help you. Okay. All right. So welcome back to the African History Network show. This is our special Tuesday, February 25th, 2020 edition. This is the show I was going to do Sunday, February 23rd, but I was too tired to drive to the radio station because I did two lectures. I did one lecture Saturday, two lectures on Sunday, and the event, the last event Sunday ran later, and I was too tired. I couldn't do the show. All right. So we talked about the news that came out about Russia meddling in the 2020 election. New York Times broke that story Thursday, February 20th. Then Washington Post broke the story Friday, February 21st, 2020. Bernie Sanders briefed by U.S. officials that Russia is trying to help his presidential campaign. And then let's see, we have a excerpt from Bernie Sanders also. We'll go to that as well. Okay, so we'll go to that in just a minute here. Okay, U.S. officials have told Senator Bernie Sanders that Russia is attempting to help his presidential campaign as part of an effort to interfere with the Democratic contest, according to people familiar with the matter. Now, Donald Trump and lawmakers on Capitol Hill also have been informed about the Russian assistance to the Vermont senator. Those people said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive intelligence. It is not clear what form that Russian assistance has taken. It is not clear what form that Russian assistance has taken. U.S. prosecutors found a Russian effort in 2016 to use social media to boost Bernie Sanders' campaign against Hillary Clinton, part of a broader effort to hurt Hillary Clinton, sow dissension in the American electorate, and ultimately help elect Donald Trump. Sow dissension in the American electorate, discourage people from voting, keep factions of Americans fighting against one another, to ultimately help Donald Trump get elected. And this is what happened. Senator Bernie Sanders said, "I don't care, frankly, who Russian President Vladimir Putin wants to be president. My message to Putin is clear: stay out of American elections. And as president, I will make sure they do." In 2016, Russia used internet propaganda to sow division in our country. And let's go to this clip here of Bernie Sanders. Let's see here. We have him. He was interviewed about this. So let's go to this clip here.
Putin is a thug. He is an autocrat. He may be a friend of Donald Trump's. He's not a friend of mine. Let me tell Mr. Putin, American people, whether you're Republicans, Democrats, Independents, are sick and tired of seeing Russia and other countries interfering in our elections. Whether Trump recognizes it or not, or acknowledges it or not, they did interfere in 2016. The intelligence community is telling us they are interfering in this campaign right now in 2020. And when I say to Mr. Putin, if elected president, trust me, you are not going to be interfering in American elections.
When were you briefed on that?
Guessing about a month ago. It was not clear what role they're going to play. We were told that Russia, maybe other countries, are going to get involved in this campaign. And look, here's the message to Russia: stay out of American elections. And what they are doing, by the way, the ugly thing that they are doing, and I've seen some of their tweets and stuff, is they try to divide us up. That's what they did in 2016. And that is the ugliest thing they're doing, is they are trying to cause chaos. They're trying to cause hatred in America. It's an ugly business, and all of us have got to say, sorry, you're not going to do this in this election. And again, as President of the United States, Mr. Putin, you will not interfere in our election.
Okay, so that was Bernie Sanders. Now, that's different than Donald Trump's response. Trump didn't say stop it. Trump didn't say don't do it. Trump didn't say Putin stay out of stay out of our elections. Trump didn't say that. Bernie Sanders took a totally different. But Bernie Sanders took a responsible response. That's the response that you would expect from a human being with some sense. That's not the response that Donald Trump gave. So the disclosure of Russian assistance to Bernie Sanders follows a briefing to lawmakers last week in which a senior intelligence official said that Russia wants to see Trump reelected. And this is the article from Washington Post. Bernie Sanders briefed by U.S. officials that Russia is trying to help his presidential campaigns from February 21st, 2020. We'll post the link here on the thread of the broadcast. Let's see here. We'll post this link right here for you because I want you to read all of this. Okay, so the disclosure of Russian assistance of Bernie Sanders follows a briefing to lawmakers last week in which a senior intelligence official said that Russia wants to see Trump reelected, viewing his administration as more favorable to Russia's interests, according to people who were briefed on the comments. In that closed hearing for the House Intelligence Committee, lawmakers were also told that Bernie Sanders had been informed about Russia's interference. The prospect of two rival campaigns, both receiving help from Moscow, appears to reflect what intelligence officials have previously described as Russia's broader interests in sowing division in the United States and certainly and uncertainty about the validity of American elections. Okay, the prospect of two rival campaigns, both receiving help from Moscow, appears to reflect what intelligence officials have previously described as Russia's broader interests in sowing division in the United States and uncertainty about the validity of American elections. At a rally Friday, February 21st in Nevada, Donald Trump called reports that Vladimir Putin wanted to help him disinformation, quote unquote, disinformation. Wouldn't he rather have Bernie, who honeymooned in Moscow? Trump asked, referring to the senator's travels in the former Soviet Union. Well, wait a second, you were trying to set up a Trump Tower in Moscow. Remember, your name was on a memorandum of understanding? Donald Trump was trying to, so you may talk about Bernie Sanders honeymooning in Moscow, but you held your, was it Miss America pageant in Russia, and you were trying to set up a Trump Tower in Russia also. So, you know, this is another case of the pot calling the kettle black. Wouldn't he rather have Bernie, who honeymooned in Moscow, Trump asked, referring to the senator's travels in the former Soviet Union? Sanders told reporters Friday after the Post report was published that he received a briefing about a month ago. Okay, so we talked about that. Okay, so read this article here from the Washington Post. Okay, now then also the Washington Post, okay, brief that, we got that. Senior intelligence official told lawmakers that Russia wants to see Trump reelected. Now, this is the article from the Washington Post. The first one was from the New York Times. Lawmakers warn that Russia is meddling to reelect Trump. Washington Post also had a article as well. Senior intelligence official told lawmakers that Russia wants to see Trump elected. So that was the one, and that was the one about Joseph McGuire, and I think this one talks about Joseph McGuire being fired as well. After learning of that analysis, which was provided to House lawmakers in a classified hearing, Trump grew angry at his acting director of national intelligence, Joseph McGuire, in the Oval Office, seeing Joseph McGuire and his staff as disloyal for speaking to Congress about Russia's perceived preference. This is the director of national intelligence job, to brief Congress. That's his job. The intelligence officials' analysis and Trump's furious response ruined Joseph Maguire's chances of becoming the permanent intelligence chief, according to people familiar with the matter, who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive matter. It was not clear what specific steps, if any, U.S. intelligence officials think Russia may have taken to help Trump, according to individuals. In Moscow, Dmitry Peskov, a spokesman for Russian President Vladimir Putin, dismissed the U.S. intelligence analysis. Trump announced Wednesday that he was replacing acting Director of National Intelligence Joseph Maguire with a vocal loyalist, Richard Grenell, who is the U.S. ambassador to Germany. Okay, the shakeup at the top of the intelligence community is the latest move in a post-impeachment purge. Trump has instructed aides to identify and remove officials across the government who are not defending his interests, and he wants them replaced with loyalists. So Trump is getting worse day by day. He's doing a purging of his administration of those who he feels are not loyal to him. Their job ain't to be loyal to you. They take an oath to defend the U.S. Constitution against enemies, both foreign and domestic. Their job is not to be loyal to a president. Joseph Maguire, a career official who is respected by the intelligence rank and file, was considered a leading candidate to be nominated to the post of Director of National Intelligence, White House aides had said. But Trump's opinion shifted last week when he heard from a Republican ally about the official's remarks. Okay. All right. So read this article from the Washington Post. We'll give you this one now. So this is from February 20th. Well, hold on. Which one is this? What was the date on this one? We'll give you the date on this one also. I'm going to pull this one up. Senior intelligence official. Okay, this is Washington Post. When we look at Richard Grenell, ProPublica had a story about Richard Grenell, who Trump is replaced Joseph Maguire with. Okay, this article here, February 21st, 2020, 6:53 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when this article was posted by the Washington Post. So Rachel Maddow talked about this on her show. Joe Scarborough on Morning Joe, and ProPublica had a big article. I posted the article from ProPublica because this article deals with the article from ProPublica deals with how Richard Grenell appeared to be operating as a foreign agent, advocating for a foreign government, and was not registered to be a foreign agent. I'm pulling up this article here from ProPublica because I think they're the ones that broke the story. But all the experts are saying how terrible of a choice he is to be a director of national intelligence because he doesn't have a background in intelligence. So let's see here, ProPublica. Okay, yeah, so this article is from, I have a couple of them from ProPublica. Once again, you have to ask a question, what type of people is Trump hanging around? Trump's new spy chief used to work for a foreign politician, the U.S. accused of corruption. Trump's new spy chief used to work for a foreign politician, the U.S. accused of corruption. Richard Grinnell did not disclose payments for advocacy work on behalf of a Moldovan politician, whom the U.S. later accused of corruption. His own office's policy says that could leave him vulnerable to blackmail. Now, this is who Trump nominated to be acting director of national intelligence. And so you sit back and have to wonder, how's he vetting these people that he's choosing? Donald Trump's new acting intelligence director, Richard Grinnell. So let me give you the date of this article, because the chronology is important, understanding the dates. February 21st, 2020. Okay, ProPublica broke this story. Donald Trump's new acting intelligence director, Richard Grinnell, used to do consulting work on behalf of an Eastern European oligarch who is now a fugitive and was recently barred from entering the U.S. under anti-corruption sanctions imposed last month by the State Department. In 2016, Richard Grinnell wrote several articles defending the oligarch, a Moldovan politician named Vladimir Plahotniuc, Plahotniuc, but did not disclose that he was getting paid by this politician, by this foreign politician, according to records and interviews. Okay? Richard Grinnell, Trump's acting director of national intelligence that he just put in, who all the experts are saying is totally unqualified to be acting director of national intelligence or director of national intelligence, according to this report from ProPublica, wrote several articles defending this Moldovan politician who is an oligarch, and Richard Grinnell did not disclose that he was getting paid, according to records and interviews. Richard Grinnell also did not register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which generally requires people to disclose work in the U.S. on behalf of foreign politicians. That is a felony. That is a felony. That's one of the things that got Paul Manafort locked up in prison. Donald Trump's former campaign manager, that Paul Manafort's in prison right now behind this, not registering as a foreign agent. Foreign Agents Registration Act is the same law that Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, and former deputy campaign manager, Rick Gates, were convicted of violating. Where the hell is Trump finding all these people? It's not clear whether the articles were directly part of Richard Grinnell's paid consulting work for the Moldovan politician. Unpaid work could still require disclosures under FARA, the Federal Agents Registration Act, if it was directed by or primarily benefited a foreign politician, according to Matthew Sanderson, a lawyer at Kaplan and Drysdale, who advises people on complying with the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Read this article from ProPublica. Dude, I mean, you have to sit back and wonder, wait a second, how could somebody be clean and know so many criminals? This is unbelievable. What do you think would have happened if President Obama's former campaign manager, his former deputy campaign manager, his former national security advisor, one of his personal attorneys, all were convicted and went to prison or were about to go to prison? How long do you think he would have stayed in office? Trump's new spy chief used to work for a foreign politician in the U.S. used to work for a foreign politician the U.S. accused of corruption. Read this article from ProPublica. This is from this one's from February 21st. Then they have an updated. Then they have a new article also from ProPublica that talks about how much money he got. Let's look at that one quickly here. And one of the reasons why this is so important is because these are the types of decisions and the types of people that a president will put in place. And a lot of people who didn't vote in the 2016 election didn't understand these types of consequences. Elections have consequences. So the other article from ProPublica.org, I think it's ProPublica.org. Yeah, this came out a day ago, and we're pulling that one up now. Trump's new spy chief once got was this $100,000 from this would be from Moldovan, I guess. Richard Grenell's past clients could raise concerns about his access to state secrets. Okay, that's not the article I want. Let's try this again. Trump's new spy chief once got $100,000 from a group funded by the Hungarian government, but never reported it. Trump's new spy chief once got $100,000 from a group funded by the Hungarian government, but never reported it. Dude, that's a felony. Richard Grenell's past clients could raise concerns about his access to state secrets according to his own office's rules. You think? This is from February 24th, 2020. ProPublica once again. Donald Trump's acting director of national intelligence, Richard Grenell, who is totally, grossly unqualified to have this position. Now, let's just go back. Just last month, during the impeachment hearings, during the impeachment trial in the U.S. Senate, okay? Just last month, you had Republicans, and even in the House hearings, you had Republicans going after Hunter Biden, who didn't serve in White House administration, didn't work for any of the White House departments, didn't do anything like that. He served on the board of Burisma, a Ukraine energy company, while his father, Joe Biden, was vice president. And you have all these Republicans standing on the soapbox talking about how it's a conflict of interest, things like this. Now, they couldn't point to anything that he actually did that was wrong or was illegal. There's absolutely no evidence showing anything like that, okay? On the surface, is it bad optics? Yes, bad optics on the surface. So is Jared Kushner working in the White House. And Jared Kushner owes Deutsche Bank $285 million. And the FBI did not sign off on Jared Kushner's background check. So that's even worse. Hunter Biden never worked for the White House. So you had all these Republicans saying there was a conflict of interest. But those same Republicans are silent on this guy who Trump just picked to be his acting director of national intelligence. Donald Trump's acting director of national intelligence, Richard Grenell, worked as a paid publicist for a foundation funded by Hungary's increasingly authoritarian government. His second former client to prompt scrutiny because Richard Grenell did not disclose the work. So the first client was the Moldovan oligarch who's a politician. This is the second client to raise suspicion. So those same Republicans who were jumping on Hunter Biden, who never worked for the White House, who never worked for a government department, for sitting on the board of Burisma while Joe Biden was vice president, I wonder if they're going to be so vocal or have the same intensity when it comes to this right here. This is taking place right now. We ain't talking about something that happened 4 years ago. We're talking about something that's happening right now. In 2016, the Magyar, M-A-G-Y-A-R, Foundation of North America paid Richard Grinnell's consulting firm, Capital Media Partners, $103,750 for public relations services, according to the foundation's tax filing. The foundation was funded and supervised by Hungary's government, according to records obtained by the Hungarian nonprofit news organization Atlatzo, A-T-L-A-T-S-Z-O, A-T-L-A-T-S-Z-O. The foundation's director, Joanne Barnhart, had been a registered lobbyist for Prime Minister Viktor Orban, O-R-B-A-N. Richard Grinnell, however, did not register, even though public relations work on behalf of a foreign government falls squarely under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, according to lawyers specializing in the matter. FARA, F-A-R-A, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, is the same law that Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, and former deputy campaign manager, Rick Gates, were convicted of violating. Read the rest of this article here. This just came out February 24th. Now, this is the second client that this guy has represented, and he didn't register as a foreign agent. What else is in his background? Where's Trump getting these people from? He must be getting these people from the swamp. He must be getting these people from the swamp. How does he know so many swampy people? Okay, so check out this article from this second article from ProPublica. Okay, so let's continue. So we got the one Washington Post, Bernie Sanders, and then the other one, Washington Post, senior intelligence official told lawmakers that Russia wants to see Trump reelected. All right. And that deals with Joseph McGuire being fired also. Okay, let's see here. Where are we? So we know Donald Trump gave pardons to last week Rod Blagojevich, the former governor of Illinois, who committed felonies and tried to basically accept a bribe to give away the Senate seat of Senator Barack Obama. Donald Trump announced last Tuesday that he had commuted the prison sentence of former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, who was impeached and removed from office in 2009 on corruption charges, and pardoned former New York City Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik. A federal spokesman said Tuesday night that Blagojevich had been released and was no longer in the custody of the Federal Prison Bureaus. The news came hours after Donald Trump signed an executive order granting a full pardon to former San Francisco 49ers owner Eddie DeBartolo Jr., related to a decades-old corruption charge, one of nearly a dozen pardons and commutations the White House announced last week, Tuesday. Donald Trump called himself the chief law enforcement officer of the country. I thought that was supposed to be the attorney general. Donald Trump called himself the chief law enforcement officer of the country on Tuesday, and renewed his attacks on the criminal justice system and demanded a new trial for his friend, convicted criminal Roger Stone, and granted clemency to several white-collar criminals. A lot of these people he gave pardons to or commutations, these were people convicted of corruption. By the end of the day, Attorney General William Barr was said to be considering resignation. He's not going to resign. Though the Justice Department denied such suggestions, the Attorney General said last week that Donald Trump was making his work impossible, quote unquote, impossible, and that Trump agreed with him on Tuesday, saying, quote, "I do make his job harder. I do agree with that. I think that's true," end quote. White House officials said Donald Trump had followed recommendations from friends, celebrities, and campaign donors in granting full pardons or commutations to 11 people. A commutation makes a punishment milder without wiping out the underlying conviction. So a presidential pardon is wiping out the conviction. A presidential pardon wipes out the conviction, but usually to get a presidential pardon in the past, you had to admit guilt, admit you were wrong, etc. Okay, so a lot of these people he's giving a pardon to, they're not admitting guilt, not accepting guilt, not admitting that they were wrong, not admitting that they are sorry, anything like that. Okay, a commutation means that a commutation means that the president wipes out the rest of your sentence, but that conviction still stays on your record. Okay, that is a commutation. All right, so those are the differences. A pardon wipes the conviction off of your record, whereas a commutation wipes out the rest of your sentence, but that conviction is still on your record. All right, now, so White House officials said Donald Trump had followed recommendations from friends, celebrities, and campaign donors and granting full pardons or commutations for 11 people. So what many people are saying is that, well, wait a second, this sounds like he's selling commutations and pardons. If you are acting based upon recommendations from campaign donors, it sounds like you're selling pardons and commutations. There was an article from the New York Times. Let me pull up this article here. There was one from the New York Times which talked about the 11 people he commuted as well. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled that presidents have unlimited authority to grant pardons. And NBC News has a full list of those who received clemency on Tuesday. Among them are Michael Milken, the Wall Street financier and so-called junk bond king of the 1980s, and Rod Blagojevich, former governor of Illinois. Okay, so we'll post some information dealing with that. I'll post these articles here when we're done. But this just shows corruption to the core. This just shows corruption to the core. All right, let's see here. What was in this? We got Roger Stone. Okay. So we got through all those. All right. You can check out the articles. The NBCnews.com has articles dealing with the commutations. Let's see. We can. Okay, so you can check those out at NBCnews.com also. All right, guys. Hey, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, then also at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. And we're on Cash App as well, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, stay independent. Helps when I have to travel out of state as well to speak at different events, helps us pay the bills. My DVD lectures and digital downloads are at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, email me at customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. Also, customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. I will be, let's see, Grits and Politics is coming up Saturday, February 29th at Greater Emmanuel Church, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Detroit, 10 a.m. to 12 noon in Detroit. So we'll have the flyer at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, and it's on our Facebook pages also. I know it's on my personal page, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. And let's see, Friday, I'll be speaking at Detroit Unity Temple Church, located at 17505 2nd Avenue in Detroit, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. 17505 2nd Avenue in Detroit, Friday, February 28th, 2020, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And this is a continuation of my presentation for African American History Month, and we'll deal with, does an amendment give the right to vote? Does an amendment give the right to vote? We'll deal with the 15th Amendment, deal with some of that history, and deal with the U.S. Constitution and some other things, okay? So I'll have my DVD lectures there as well. My African American History Month presentation that I did February 8th at Nandy's Knowledge Cafe, dealing with Black migrations and African Americans and the vote, et cetera. We'll have that on DVD. We'll have that available at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, in the next day or so. So look out for that as well. Okay, be sure to listen to the African History Network show Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. to Superstation WFDF. And we broadcast on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network also. We're going to get out of here. Remember, right now is correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.